You know, it's funny because when I was a kid, I was very shy, very introverted. When I think about my childhood when I was little, I think about playing alone a lot. I remember just being in my own little world. And even though now a lot of people say, wow, you're so outgoing and you're so good at interacting with people and whatever, it's ironic to look back and realize that I was socially, very insecure and not good at interacting with people when I was a little kid. Grade school was interesting for me. I had a couple of kind of best friends in grade school who were always the cooler guy than me, and I was always kind of like the tag-along kid, and I was never really one of the popular kids. I think I was the one that would, in my own mind, would go out and have little adventures in my mind and think about things, and I knew that I was kind of different from other kids because I thought about, just more complex stuff, I guess, than them, and I was interested in more complex stuff. And back then I felt like I was different and that wasn't good. It's kind of like the old joke, children's books that didn't make it, you're different and that's bad. That's how I felt. When I got into middle school and then into high school, those were interesting years for me because a lot of my friends were meeting girls and hooking up with girls, and they were the ones that were walking down the hallway holding hands with girls and getting notes from girls. And I just assumed that there must be something wrong with me. That was the assumption that I got. I made it about the way I looked or who I was as a guy or maybe my money or that I just didn't have that magic that those guys had. But I became convinced pretty rapidly that it was something about me and there was probably nothing that I was going to be able to do about it. One day I just got fed up with not being able to interact with women. It was when I'd moved to San Diego and I was out with my best friend one night, and I can actually remember the night. I remember where we were, and I think I had seen a girl that maybe I was making some eye contact with, or maybe even talked to her, but didn't know what to say. I can't, it's kind of, the memory's becoming foggy, but I walked outside with him and I said, you know what, I am going to figure this out. It is going to happen. I don't care what it takes or how long, I am going to figure out how to meet and interact with women. And that was it. That was the moment when it changed for me right then, because then I said, all right, instead of being too ashamed to admit that I want help in this area, embarrassed about what other people would think, embarrassed, if women found out that I needed help, whatever, just getting it is the most important thing. So I started learning. I started reading books and getting to know guys who were good with women. And it was kind of slow going at first because there wasn't a lot of educational material. But through the process of just making that commitment and then getting into it, that's when things started to change immensely. I guess the real big ahas came from deliberately going out and finding guys who were really good with women, kind of naturally, guys I might call naturals who'd figured this out for themselves, just learning from them, watching what they did, interacting with them, and trying to see the world through their lens and see things from their perspective. And that was the biggest shift. A real defining moment for me was one time I was in Las Vegas and I was out with my friend Rick. And this was kind of before I had really overcome my insecurity around approaching women, and before I just kind of had a confidence level like everything was going to be okay, and before I even had it in my model that you could approach women, start conversations, and it would be okay to do that, nothing bad would happen. He and I were hanging out, and there were a couple of other guys there, and we were in one of the hotel casinos, and there was a nightclub there, and it turned out the bathrooms were outside the nightclub. So there's this constant ant trails of people back and forth. So there are groups of attractive women just walking back and forth at this place. And Rick, completely unafraid in any way, who's been doing this all his life, and he's like, let's go talk to these girls, we're right here. So we just start walking up to one group of women after another. 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, whatever, and just stopping them and starting conversations. And because they were either on their way to the bathroom or on their way back to the club with their friends, it turned out not to be the most ideal place to meet women and stop them and, you know, start talking to them because they would want to go pretty quickly. But I mean, we must have approached 50 groups of women in a row, just boom, 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 one after another. And when it was done, you know, whatever, an hour or 2 hours later or whatever, you know, a couple hours, I felt like a changed person because I actually had the experience of seeing for myself that I could just walk up to women anytime, anywhere, and start conversations with them, even if they were on their way to something, and get positive feedback. And that the worst that was likely to happen was a girl would just go, no, you know, I can't talk to you right now, I'm on my way to do something. And that was like enlightenment. I'm like, wow, it's okay, it's all right. I want to tell you something that's almost a little spooky and weird. And it is that back when I was a kid, when I was little, when I would play alone and you know, go off into my little fantasy world or something, I must have been having delusions of grandeur or, you know, some kind of psychological problem. But I imagined myself back then affecting large numbers of people someday in my life. And when I think back about it, you know, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was my way of feeling unimportant and making myself feel like someday I'd be. But it's kind of ironic. It's kind of weird to think back at it because, you know, if someone would have said to me years ago, hey, you know, you're going to go on to affect a lot of people or you're going to make a big difference in the world, I probably would have said, you know, yeah, maybe. And inside I would have thought, I kind of feel like I'm going to do that anyway. And it's not in like a way where I want to feel like the important person or like I want to be the famous guy, but I just want to affect a lot of people. I want to help a lot of people get more of what they want out of their lives. That's what gives me a lot of fulfillment. When I first started writing newsletters and books and kind of putting my ideas out into the world, I started to get a lot of feedback like, wow, dude, I tried your technique or I tried your cocky and funny thing and it worked and it was really great. I met this girl, or I went and tried your, you know, kiss test with the hair and, you know, I kissed the girl, and like, wow. And it was so cool. I mean, it was like, that's so awesome that guys are, you know, taking this information, you know, a million miles from me and boom, they're using it. Well, what's happened is over, you know, years of creating programs and products and developing stuff, I now get guys walking up to me at the end of my programs or contacting me, and it's gone from, I tried this technique and I got this, to your stuff has changed my life. Like my life was bad, or even, you know, intense things like my life was so bad I was contemplating ending it, and then I got your stuff and, you know, I got on this path and now I have all this success in my life and thank you. And so more guys are coming up now and kind of saying that kind of stuff than saying, you know, hey, I tried your technique and, you know, it worked for me. And, you know, my response is, hey man, you know, it was you that did the work. I just took a lot of, you know, mine and other people's ideas and, you know, brought them to you. You did the work. But you know what? It's cool to be part of it. And that's the bottom line. The amazing thing about this particular program, kind of the Cliff's List culmination, you know, the conference, the convention, is that this is the first time where all these different guys who have gone on this path themselves and from kind of all walks, from all views and all paradigms, have all come together and shared all of their different stuff from wherever they're at and wherever they came from. And it's incredible to be part of that thing, because I think that you know, we're dealing with a change in the culture right now. We're dealing with a shift that's starting to happen. It's like a wave that's building power right now, and it's going to go on to affect, you know, the future. I mean, this is history we're making here, and it's really cool to be part of it.